Well, that was a close one. But I will say, this team is proving to be the Cinderella story of college football, period. And I love it. So, with that said, here's the review. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Drew, better known as RockChalk01, and yesterday, whenever you're watching this, it was a battle of the blue bloods of basketball on the gridiron as the undefeated Kansas Jayhawks took on the undefeated Duke Blue Devils in David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium, and the Hawks escaped with a win by a final score of 35-27. Yeah, so a lot of milestones were kind of hit in a way, because for the first time since 2010, Kansas football has won more than 3 games in a season, which I'm saying thank you, because I was tired of being stuck at 3-9 every stinking year. So finally we broke the ice. Also, the real big one is that KU, for the first time since 2009, has moved to 4-0 on the season, which thank God that happened. And then finally, I figured this out recently, is that for the first time since 2009, KU has finished its non-conference slate undefeated. They went 3-0 against non-conference opponents. And I had to go and look this up because, ironically, Duke's on this list as well when the last time KU went undefeated in non-con play. So the opponents were Northern Colorado, UTEP, Duke, and Southern Miss were the opponents that KU beat that year. And now Duke's on this twice. Ouch. Also, I said it in my last video, in my updates, that KU sold out the game against Duke, which is the first sellout since 2019. And oh my gosh, it was full. I mean, there were open seating, but it's because of the touchdown club. You really can't get people to sit there. But it was filled all the way up to the back on both sides. And oh man, it was awesome. Now, there were a lot of good things that came out of this game, but there were a lot of mistakes that KU made. And thankfully, the good outweighed the bad. So with that said, for those of you who don't know, I give positives and negatives about the game. I give a player of the game and a player who needs to improve. So without further ado, let's do this. Also, I really want to give a fair warning. My voice is on the verge of coming back because it's shot. And also, yeah, I'm sunburnt as well because, well, I went to the game. And yes, it was as fun as it is advertised. So bear with me. But first, let's take a look at some of the positives. And my gosh, the KU offense outperformed again in what seems like a consistency for this team, as the Jayhawks put up over 500 yards for the second time this season. KU's total yards were 528 for the game, which outgained Duke as they had 463 for the game. But the biggest positive that I got to take away is the passing yards, because holy cow, we put up 300 passing yards in a ball game. We haven't done that since Carter Stanley was here. 324 passing yards for the Jayhawks, along with 204 rushing yards, an average of 8.5 yards per play. That's impressive. KU for the game had 23 first downs on 62 plays, and converted on third down going 6 of 10, and converting on fourth down going 1 for 2. Which actually KU did better than Duke on third down conversions, as KU was 60%. Duke went 33%, going 5 of 15 on third down. Both teams were 50% on fourth down, but Duke did convert more. We didn't punt the ball very much, as we only punted twice, while Duke punted 3 times. So, yeah, a lot of good things happened. And I don't know why, but our offense has just been clicking and putting up yards. And I think total offense, I think we've just cracked a little over or a bit over 2,000 yards for the season, which is great. And yeah, so those are my positives. Now, to the negatives, and the defense, in a way, did give up 27 points and allowed the 463 yards. Duke's passing game was superb. They had 324 yards through the air as well, along with KU. But the big difference, there's actually two big differences, and the first one was turnovers, as Duke actually won the turnover battle, as KU had one turnover, technically two, as you had the turnover on downs and then the fumble, while Duke didn't surrender. They didn't surrender any turnovers at all. And also, for the first time, our offensive line gets on here because for the first time this season, they allowed a sack. What are you going to do about it? It was bound to happen at one point, but for 3.5 games, nothing. And then it just happened. And it's like, well, it was good while it lasted. But the biggest negative of all in this game was penalties. Oh my gosh, this team almost blew this game on penalties alone. KU was given 7 penalties and had 83 penalty yards, with a lot of them being personal fouls and pass interferences. And a few of those were questionable calls, especially the last one where I think it was Romello Dotson who he pushed Duke's quarterback out of bounds, and they threw the flag to call that unnecessary roughness, add 15 yards, and I think Duke ended up scoring later because of this. And that was the most ridiculous call in the game, because if you saw the replay, he was in bounds when he got pushed. He wasn't out of bounds. It was clear as daylight, and they missed that one. That was a bad game in terms of penalties, and that's the most KU has had in terms of penalties all season long. I think the last time, it was 4 was the highest, but 7, oh geez, it was getting bad. Now Duke did have penalties as well. They had 5 for 34 yards, but it was just basic holding false starts, give or take those, and maybe 1 pass interference. But ours were the big plays, and we got to stop doing that, especially once conference play is now in full gear. I mean, we had the one game against West Virginia that was just the outlier, but now it's everybody in your conference the rest of the way. And you cannot be giving up PIs and unnecessary roughness all game long and expect to win ball games in the Big 12. So that really needs to be fixed. But as I said, the good outweighed the negative. And with that said, those are my positives and negatives. So my player of the game, and I'm only going to give it to one guy this time because there was no question who it was, and that was Jalen Daniels. My gosh, if he was going to win the Heisman this year, this was his Heisman game. Daniels was 19 of 23 for 324 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And he also had 11 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Wow. 400 yards by yourself. That's nuts. I mean, he had some incredible plays. I mean, the first one, like his touchdown pass to Trevor Cardell, set the tone early. In fact, I don't even have to go to ESPN to go and get the play. I have it right here.
Go. Wide open!
But the big play of the game that was like a big turning point was this 73-yard pitch and catch by Daniel Highshaw, and I just can't believe how many tackles he got out of, but it was a great play. And here it is.
We're gonna tear this up.
Although he had his best game through the air, he still made damage on the ground. And he gave KU a key touchdown late in the ball game to let the Jayhawks get up by, I believe, 15 with 5.5 minutes to go. Here's that clip.
Oh, he's got it!
But yeah, Jalen Daniels was amazing, and he did have a good supporting cast along with him. First off, Daniel Highshaw with 10 carries for 61 yards on the ground, and then he also had the catch for 73 yards along with the score. Devin Neal, 9 carries, 54 yards. I'll give him credit, he looked a lot better, but he did have a shoulder injury after he fumbled early in the ballgame. Then you got the receivers. Lawrence Arnold, 4 catches, 84 yards and a touchdown. Luke Grimm, 5 catches, 63 yards and a touchdown. And Trevor Cardell, 3 catches for 44 yards and a score. So yeah, although those guys played great, I have to give it to Jalen Daniels. So that's why JD6 is my player of the game. Now, my player who needs to improve, it's going to go on the defensive side, and I got to give it to Jacoby Bryant. He struggled. I mean, yeah, he had that Hawk Mamba mentality for 2-3 weeks, but this week he struggled. I mean, he had only 4 tackles and then got beat over the top twice that Duke was able to score on because they just went over the top of him and they made plays and just got beat on routes. So hopefully this was a fluke, but I have to give my player who needs to improve to Jacoby Bryant. And that's going to do it for my review. And that's going to do it for my review of KU versus Duke. Again, the final score, Kansas 35, Duke 27. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Push that notification bell. Tell your friends about these videos. And I should see you again for the next review as KU returns to the booth to take on the Iowa State Cyclones for the true beginning of conference play. But until then, have a good day. Never ever bring exotic danger to the field house. Catch you on the flip side. Peace.